Tick, tock, tick tock, tick tock. It's counting down. Less than 24 hours to go as I sit here at 10 p.m. Wednesday night. We are literally, I can count the minutes almost. Not straight away. I'm a maths teacher. I'm not that good. But we are minutes now away from our very first NAB Cup game, the start of a new AFL season. I'm the Mighty T, returning this year as host of the Collingwood Big Footy podcast. And I'm so excited to be here, so excited to be back and to get started. And let's just jump straight in. Gone Critical is my guest tonight. I'm also joined by Magpie Girl and Laurie Holden. Guys, let's start with you, Gone Critical. How are you today?
I'm excited because tomorrow we play, and, you know, we've been waiting a long time for this day, and go Pies.
Go Pies, absolutely. Magpie Girl, how are you tonight?
I'm fantastic, thanks, Mighty T. Also excited to have some football, although I don't really consider this real football, but some football finally happening.
You know, I said that in the NAB game, or in the challenge game against Hawthorn thread, and I was held down by, I think it was legend status. We're going to have a talk about this. But that's okay. That's fine. Laurie, how are you tonight?
I'm very good, thank you. Can't wait. I've got Foxtel installed and it's ready to rock for tomorrow night.
I'm glad that we've all jumped on the Foxtel bandwagon, especially for this. This is important. Not the NAB, but the AFL season. It's upon us. And I think it's a good thing for us as a football club and as a supporter base that footy's just around the corner, because we want to put behind the season that was, want to put it in our rearview mirror. But I think it's important to acknowledge it. Gone Critical, it didn't end quite the way we wanted to. We started the season, I think we were 8 and 4, and ended up missing the finals for the first time in I think about 7 or 8 years. What were your thoughts on the end of the year? Were you disappointed?
Oh, absolutely disappointed. But it was a two-edged sword because, you know, it was a massive disappointment because we looked good for a long time through the season and we had kids coming through. But that was what also gave me solace to say, well, the kids still kept coming. And you look through them and you just had expectation for what was going forward. So, yeah, it was a really disappointing end to the season. But at the same time, you had the expectation of what Broomhead was doing, of what Kennedy was doing, what Paddy Kinesis, you know, potentially was doing. So, you know, it's led us into this year with a new enthusiasm and optimism. So, yeah, I mean, it was two-edged, but I'm back onto the optimism.
There was definitely a silver lining to last year, and I think that, as you say, getting to see those kids, getting enough games into those kids late in the season, and you could see the potential. You know, I mean, come round 15 or 16, that's what I was almost watching for, to see those glimpses of the future. And looking forward into this year, we come into this year and I don't really have that many expectations of the club, but I want to see improvement, and I think we are going to see improvement. With that in mind, I think that we have been written off by a lot of journalists wrongly, considering it's still February by my watch. So I still fully expect us to challenge for finals this year. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I expect it slightly more than challenge. I'd be a little bit disappointed. I mean, look, we all want to make finals, of course, but I think we missed by a game and a bit of percentage last year. We had a terrible run with injuries, and we've got a lot of kids coming through. So I can see all sorts of reasons why maybe it doesn't pan out for us, but at the same time, I can see all sorts of reasons why it will. And I'm going with the optimistic view that I think we can. Given luck with a good run with injuries, and then I expect we'll be in the hunt for finals, and I'd be expecting us to be, you know, deep into it towards August and fighting for a spot, if not already secured a spot. I'd be disappointed if we're not at least, you know, considering that option late in the year.
I love the optimism. I think that's fantastic, and I think it's driven by what I'm sure would have been an excellent showing at the Intraclub match this past Thursday. I know you had the chance to go down, Magpie Girl. I know you were there as well. Share some thoughts with me. I wasn't able to go down myself, but how did we look, and what particularly impressed you?
I thought the first there was. Hang on, how many? I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 words, but the first thing that impressed me was Jordan De Goey. I thought he just stepped up immediately to the pace of the game. He was strong. He just didn't look out of place at all. So, he's the kid now I'm focusing on because I'd really love to see. I've got a bit of an expectation that he's going to be stepping right into senior footy. He may not play first round or something, but he'll play a lot of senior footy this year, and he'll be an impressive kid. So I love the look of him on the Intraclub.
Okay, fantastic. That's always good to hear.
Magpie Girl, what did you think?
Well, I thought they looked really fit. They all looked fast. It was very hard to tell them all apart, and very hard to see anything unless it was in front of you. But by the time we sort of sorted out who was who, and Vicky Park kept looking up all the numbers because we couldn't remember whose number had changed to what. But eventually we got them all sorted out. And look, there were those few moments, I know it's been spoken about a bit on the board, but those few moments in the second half or third quarter where Swan got the ball and just did Swan magic, and you could just feel his excitement, and that just led to everybody going, oh, wow, this is, going to be so good.
Yeah, I think that was the other big thing you came away from, thinking Swanee's back. And, I think I think a guy that's been 5 times All-Australian, all the accolades in the world, and has an injury-ridden season, geez, we've given him, he's had one down year in 6 years, and I think he's back. He looked fantastic. He looked like he just cut swathe through those players sometimes without having to try, and he looked great.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy here that really, arrived on the scene in 2007 when he, I think, was top 3 in the Brownlow, and his only down year has been 8 years after that when he's in his, when he's just touching 30. He's an impressive player, and when you had so many players down like we did, as I said right off the bat, writing us off is just a ridiculous idea. Aside from the veterans like Swanee who look good, and De Goey who look quite good, I'm interested in from a game style perspective. What sort of tactical things did you see, or did you notice that you were either impressed with or that you thought were a bit lacking in the game? How were we playing?
I must say it was a hard game to watch because there wasn't a lot of style to it. At times it looked like the under-12s.
Right.
So there was a lot of enthusiasm. I found it hard to see a real game plan in that match, but it was also that if you've been to that ground in the twilight with the lights coming on, seeing what's happening on the other side of the ground was very difficult. So it was difficult to perceive, really difficult to pick what was happening. But yep. I couldn't say I picked out anything different or special from what we were doing. Mm-hmm. So it was really more a focus on the players, and probably we're looking at the young players. And we were also looking at, I thought that Travis Varco looked as though he'd stepped in really well. Jesse White looks as though he's lost a lot of weight, and there's a whole range of guys that just looked a bit different, I guess.
I mean, I've done a full 180 on Varco. I was completely against his recruitment. I didn't think he added much to the side, and you then realise he's played almost 200 games, and he's a veteran of grand finals, and you can see his value to the team, not just on the field, but in a leadership capacity. Mm. And mind you, we're a team now where there was an article on the AFL site today where Nathan Brown at 26 feels like one of the elder statesmen at the club when he's, he's mid-20s, but that's the role he has to assume. So,
well, I think the other interesting point on that, because I looked this up yesterday, is we named a squad of 29, and there's 4 guys in that 29 that have played more than 100 games, and I think 130 games. I think Varco actually has played 138 games, and that was the highest game of anyone who's going to play tomorrow. We are an incredibly young unit, and we just got potential, but I think we with our youth, we're going to have to expect some ups and downs.
Oh, of course. Inconsistency is the mark of a young team, and we were inconsistent. Well, look, I think we were consistently okay for the start of the year, then consistently bad for the back end of the year, and that was expected. But I think that we should expect a level of fluctuation from these kids as they try to adapt to the AFL level. We're all talking up Nathan Freeman as as a guy who's going to come in and make an impact, but he's also missed an entire year of football. So there's got to be we've got to temper our expectations, because he's not going to come in and have 25 disposal games and 10 games apart. It's just not going to happen off the bat.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think your Freemans, even your Deguis, who I've wrapped up at the moment, I think the guys who we really should have expectation is your Marley Williams, your Sinclairs, your Seedsmans, your Fasalos, your Paddy Carnesis. Now, these guys that have been they're up around 50 games, they've played 4 or 5 years in the system. Taylor Adams would be another one. They should be guys that are ready to step up, and even putting Kennedy and Broomhead. That's where I think if you get half a dozen of those guys really stepping up quickly, that's where we'll really improve, and that's when we become a finals threat.
Yeah, and these players, this group of players that we're talking about, they're all going to reach that 50 game to 70 game mark around the same time. Yeah, it might be a season or 2 seasons away for some of them, but that's still well within the range of, Pendlebury being at the club in his prime, Travis Cloke still being at the club, side bottom hitting 25, 26 at that point in time. It's going to be, and I really commend Buckley for going down this route, and just to explain that, yes, okay, we probably should have capitalised and won another premiership with the list we had, all well and good. But the fact that now the list that we have coming through will be competing with the likes of GWS, Gold Coast, potentially Melbourne if they get their act together. But these teams that have sat and hoarded talent, these teams are going to come through eventually. It'll happen. And it's happening with Gold Coast sooner than we think. So we want to be competitive for the long haul. It's not just about a short-term fix. And I think that's important to remember.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important point to say, that whatever the changeover has happened, and that's ancient history, we've really got to get past that. But Buckley's big task now is to say, we've got Cloke, Reed, Swan still, Pendles, Sidey's a bit younger, Nathan Brown, but we need these guys to still be around while we fast track these other groups that we've spoken about. If we can, his job is to mesh those two groups to become successful in the next 2 to 3 to 4 seasons. That's where we really should be aiming, I think.
And the truth is, we have to be realistic about this. The truth is, if we don't see improvement as a club, I think that's when we can start questioning his tenure as coach. But at this point in time, I see this as his season now, where he has the team he wants, he has the list he wants, the right players at the club, and a development process in place that he will seek to execute. And if it works out, it works out. If not, well, we may have to look elsewhere. But I'm of the opinion that it'll pay dividends.
And wouldn't you love just to see him get an injury-free run? I want him to have a chance to have an injury-free season, to put his boys forward and say, this is what we can do, and then we can judge him.
I completely agree. Speaking of being judged, we come up against our perennial executioner tomorrow, the Hawks. I don't know when the last time was that we beat them. I think it might have been the 2011 prelim.
That was worth beating them.
and that was very much worth beating them. That's tomorrow. It is only a NAB Cup game. We are going over there without Swanee, Cloke and Pendles, the holy trio, and Reed. But what are we expecting from tomorrow night? I mean, what are we looking for as supporters?
I think as supporters, we don't want to blow out. Look, they've got a stronger squad than we've got, and they're clearly more experienced, and that's partly because their list is more experienced. And we've taken a young list out of a young list, so I think we're looking for a reasonable showing, and we want to see who puts their hand up first to step up, because there's a whole group of them there now, and I'd be really interested to see if you could see within that group and ask them, how are you guys feeling? Because they must feel that internal competition because,
Yeah.
you know, some of them are going to fall back and some of them aren't. So tonight's the first chance they get to stake their claim. And I want to see who's going to stake their claim tomorrow.
Because when you look at it, the conversation can be made, and it's quite difficult currently to pick our best 22, that we only have 6 or 7 guys that would be lock-ins for the 22, maybe 10 if we stretched it out to a couple of fringe players that really deserved it based on a bit of longevity. But that next 20-odd guys on the list, it's tight. It's very close. You know, guys like, you know, you mentioned before, Marley Williams, Sinclair, Seedsman. You know, these guys are the ones that should be stepping up, and with that in mind, they should be looking over their shoulder at what's chasing them.
Yeah, because at the end of the year, it's going to be Karnisis or Fasolo, or maybe it's both of them that will have entrenched themselves in the 22.
Yeah, and
someone else will have missed out, and they'll have changed their whole career completely. So they're on tenterhooks, all these guys tomorrow night. I would have thought a lot of them are playing for a spot in the list and for their careers.
I think you'll find young Patrick Karnisis to be particularly enthused tomorrow night to put in a good showing. And he'd want to too. This is big ticket for him. He tore up a NAB Cup 2 years ago and didn't get a chance to show his wares at the AFL level. This is big moments for him.
Yeah, he's absolutely 5 seasons into his career, and he's got to step up now. And he's got the talent and. You know, wouldn't you love to see him cut it up?
Oh, I absolutely would. As a Greek myself, I'd like to see successful Greek players in the AFL. There haven't been that many, and unfortunately, the best of them played for Carlton. But anyway, I digress.
He was in my kids' school year group, so I've got a little soft spot for him too.
Patrick.
Yeah.
No, look, and a really good kid. From all reports, he's a fantastic individual. But you know, looking past that, you know, we've got a bunch of new guys who are coming in to try and stake their claim. Jack Crisp, I think, is one that really will play round one. He's shown a lot since coming over to the club, and again, one that I wasn't happy about that Beams trade either way, but he's one that's really shown a lot of promise. So I'm looking for big things for him tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and again, he has to be here. Although he's another one, an obvious one to say, right, you've got to now, it's time for you now to step up and make yourself an AFL footballer, because if you're going to, it's going to be this year that you make your move.
How will you measure success this year, Gone Critical? Like, what's a pass mark for you? What are some of the indicators that you want us to reach?
I think as long as we get a run with a fit team, I want to make finals, but I don't think that's the absolute pass mark. I think it's to see that there's enough development in the team to say that we are now we now have a process to go forward with, and we have a group to go forward with that will develop in a relatively quick time to mesh our older A-grade players, and they're not that old, but I mean they're at their peak now. So I want the younger guys to come through quickly. So I want to see whether it's DeGuy and the really new kids, or whether it's Karnisis, Fasolo and Sinclair and these guys, I want to see a handful from each group step up and say, at the end of the year, I'm a bloody good AFL footballer, and I'm going to make Collingwood better in the next few years. That's my pass mark.
I want those guys to make life incredibly difficult for Nathan Buckley every Thursday night. I want him to hate leaving players out, because that's how good the list is.
Yes.
Because that's my pass mark for the team. Absolute competition and depth within our list, so that, you know, when it comes that time, when next year comes round, you want to struggle to cut 3 players off the list. That's your aim every year, to say, okay, I can't pick who's off the list now. As you say, I don't think finals is the be all and end all for us this year. It's certainly an expectation of mine, and a goal. It should be a goal within the club, because if you're not aiming to play finals, then really you shouldn't be in the competition.
Yeah.
But as you say, I think that injury-free run, that mesh of the young and the old, and let's see what we can accomplish. Let's see what we can do this year.
Maybe it's enough to say no one gets picked by default. You get picked because there was 2 blokes who really deserved it, and you were the one that got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We have an injury-free or a relatively injury-free year, so that
Yes.
it creates
that.
level playing field for everyone to really earn a spot in the team.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess all will be revealed tomorrow night. I think the first bounce is at about 7 o'clock, 7:30. I'm not sure, to be honest. Check your local guides. But it should be an interesting game. I think we'll be quite competitive. I think that we'll be more competitive than people think, because, and I think that'll be the case for most of the early part of the season. No one knows where we are. Not even our supporters know where we are as a club at the moment. I think we're all in a little bit of limbo. Are we rebuilding? Are we challenging? Where are we? But I think that that's part of the excitement of having, our list be in this position. So, frankly, I'm looking forward to having a quick watch tomorrow night. I won't put too much stock in it, but I'll be having a look and seeing those guys that come out to impress.
Well, there's still 4 or 5 weeks to the actual start of the season, isn't there?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's the last week of March.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of
improvement
what happened in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Tomorrow's the first step.
Yeah.
At this point in time, I'd like to introduce SpeciousArgument, who, on Saturday started a little thread that kind of sent our board into a bit of a frenzy. I won't say too much about it. If you've seen it, you'll know a bit of information about it. But I'll let Specious talk about it. Specious, nice for you to join us.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit more. For the people who haven't seen your thread and who are listening to this for the first time, would you mind just explaining what it is you came a long way across from the Adelaide board to see us? Tell us your story.
Yeah, so my wife and I have been fostering for about 6 months since we got accredited. We've had 11 kids through our house now. The 2 that are with us were originally only going to be with us for a month, but the arrangements for where they're going next kind of broke down, and DHS have changed the arrangements and things like that. So at the moment, they're with us kind of indefinitely. One of them is a little 18-month-old girl. She's gorgeous. She doesn't speak yet. Her sister, I asked the other day, what footy team do you support? Hoping I'd be able to get in early and get her in some red, yellow and blue hoops, but she was adamant that it was Collingwood and she wouldn't be persuaded. So I had a bit of a think about it, and I thought, I'll see if any of you guys have got an old jumper or a scarf or something like that, so that she can when we go along to the game, she'll feel part of the community and things like that. So posted a thread hoping that there'd be a jumper, but thinking a member's scarf or something like that would be lovely. And the thread's kind of taken off, and I'm shocked at what a positive reception it's got. I never thought anyone would be unpleasant about it, but I didn't have any idea that it would kind of take off as much as it has. So what I guess we've got a thread going. Magpie Girl started an appeal. Originally, somebody offered to buy her a jumper. So the money that was being donated that was going to go for a jumper was then put towards members' tickets. Then Anzac Day spoke to the club and organised tickets for her and myself to go to the games this year. So now I'm going to end up going to more Collingwood games than Crows games.
Yep.
Lucky you.
She's pretty happy about. Tell me, guys, are you going to play finals this year? Is it going to be entertaining games?
Absolutely.
Look.
Yes, is the word.
We are,
yes.
We are positive people here at Collingwood.
Excellent.
Yes, we will be playing finals this year. I'm in awe of the work you do, mate. This is incredible stuff, and I think that's that sentiment is reflected through our entire board. We're all very touched and very impressed, and I think that's why you've gotten such a groundswell of support.
Thank you. I before we were talking, I think you mentioned that you wanted me to give you a bit of an idea of fostering and what's involved. Is that still the case?
Yeah, give us a quick rundown. Yeah.
All right. So basically, what we do, there's different levels of foster caring. There's emergency care, respite care, and kind of ongoing care. And so when we signed up, we said we'd be happy to do each. So the emergency care, we get a phone call at any time of day. and we get a little rundown. We've got these 2 kids. These are the ages. Do you feel like you can take them on? And that's how we've got the majority of the kids through, because we were silly enough to say you can call us 24 hours. Then we got respite care. We got a couple of girls come stay with us for a week when their foster carer wasn't able to care for them. She had a sick relative she had to go and visit. And the girls we've got now, as I mentioned, they were going to be with us for a month because their previous foster care placement broke down, and the placement that they were going to go to near their school, or near the older one's school, wasn't accredited yet. So we were just going to have them for a month while they got accredited. But as I mentioned, that accreditation didn't go through. So now, we've got the 2 living with us, and we've actually ended up moving house. We got a notice to vacate because the owner was selling. So we thought that was a good opportunity. So we're now going to be 5 minutes from the girls' school and see how we go from there.
Oh, that's that's awesome. Like I can't think of any other word to describe it. That's absolutely brilliant, man. I'm very impressed. And obviously, she's a bright child. She's made the right choice. Collingwood is a great club. And look, and I just think it's awesome that you're supporting that and supporting the club. That's super. Very impressive. Certainly, I'm very, very taken aback. Very impressed.
I posted some photos of my biological daughter on the thread that we've got going. And my wife's often asked me, my wife's Victorian and grew up, Carlton was her team, but she never really followed football, so she's adopted the Crows. But with my daughter, I kind of have said to my wife, I'm not going to push the Crows on her, because if she does get into footy, I want her to be able to go to more games and be more involved, and had to be Collingwood.
She's looking very beautiful in black and white.
Absolutely.
And one other thing, this is gone critical now, Specious, on SEN today, interestingly, they had Josh Jenkins on, one of your guys, who he was brought up in a foster system, and spoke really nicely today about the woman that had taken him and his sister and his brother over. So I think if anyone's also interested in that, you could look onto SEN today and see Josh Jenkins' interview, because he's very much involved in the same thing that you are. And as we say, it's fantastic what you've done.
Yeah, I did see that thread, that link to that article. I had no idea. In the press, foster caring, the only stories that make the news are where something's gone wrong. There's either been some child abuse, there's been some child neglect, and it's horrible when those things happen. But the reality is they are a minuscule fraction of what's happening. Now, I'm not going to say the system's perfect. It definitely isn't. There's lack of funds at every level. There's lack of volunteers for fostering. And there are some policy changes that could be made to improve things, but again, it comes back to funding, really. So what I say to people, if they want to help out, if they want to make a difference, the best way to improve the foster system is for more good people to volunteer. And that doesn't mean taking on children full-time the way my wife and I have. You can do things like respite care, I mentioned before. You can do things like taking some children for 1 weekend a month. I've got friends who do that. Some of the people I went through training with do that, and you treat it like a weekend holiday. You can spoil the kids because they're not with you full time. You're not having to teach them life lessons. You just have the freedom to spoil them. So if you're interested, look it up. Respite care is a way to go to dip your feet into the water without any real burden on yourself. And they always push on us that we've got the right to say no at any time. If there's a placement that isn't working, if there's a placement you don't want to take, if you say no, that's the end. So if you're thinking about it, I'd encourage you to look into it a bit more. But if it's not right for you, stay clear. But if it's something you might be interested in, I encourage you to give it a go.
Well, I'd like to thank all the Pies members that have rallied so well in response to your story, and I think it's been a tremendous response and a great outpouring of willingness to help. And
look, absolutely. As I said, going in, I was hoping that there'd be a second-hand jumper, but I'm just amazed at the amount that people have given and keep on giving. It's I'm a little embarrassed actually, to see such a positive response. So, it's really lovely to see.
I think you might have to make up a member name for her She seems to be fast becoming a mascot or something for our board.
Absolutely.
And we want pictures.
That's it. I'll get her a screen name. She can make her own posts.
I like it. That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Well, great work, Specious. I really appreciate you coming on. I look forward to, and I'll put in a special request to have you back in a few weeks when we're talking about the Crows game and obviously your new mixed feelings towards it. But thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us.
Thank you, absolutely. As I said, it's you can see the photos on the thread. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to have a look. She's got a massive smile on her face, and she asked me where all this Collingwood stuff came from, and I said, well, I've got some friends on the internet, and I told them that you like Collingwood, and they've just sent you all this stuff. So she has no idea how much more is coming. She's the first package she's opened. She wants to take it to school to show everyone tomorrow. It's gorgeous.
No, that's fantastic. Look, I think I speak for everyone when I commend you on your work and your efforts. And look, you know what we'll talk again soon. I look forward to seeing some more photos. And thanks so much for coming on and having a chat.
Thank you. Hope you don't have to edit it down too much.
Well, guys, I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I know we're trying to keep these tighter than usual. Magpie Girl, I'm sorry, I do waffle a bit. But I want to thank everyone for joining us. I especially want to thank SpeciousArgument for coming on and sharing his bit. I've been very impressed with his work, as I've said. But thank you very much, Gone Critical, for coming on tonight. You've been a great sport. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, loved it. Talking about Collingwood, who wouldn't?
Absolutely. Magpie Girl, same to you. Thank you so much for being ever present on the board and being here as well tonight.
Thanks, Marty T.
And Laurie, thanks for all your help recording too, by the way.
No problem. Thank you.
And until next week, we will have a comprehensive wrap-up of the game and all your news Collingwood. This is the Mighty T signing out.